How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. And today our special guest is Steve from Cannifest. How are you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me out here, James.
Dude, thanks for coming out. We've been talking about you coming on the podcast for quite some time before last year's Cannifest.
It's true.
And you are here. I'm super happy you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So I know I kind of lagged on getting here, but things happen.
Yep.
There's a lot going on
Dude,
in the world.
We're both busy people, but it's like tight schedules. And you got a lot going on for sure. You throw an amazing event. It's one of my favorite events. Humboldt County, you can't go wrong. I go to 2 events every year in Humboldt County now. Reggae on the River and Cannifest.
Yeah. That's the way.
Dude, that's the way. And they're both just amazing events that I look forward to. Like, I'm looking forward to Reggae on the River this year. I'm looking forward to Cannifest. You guys have great music lineup too. So I feel like they're parallel in some ways, but I feel like the cannabis community is stronger at Cannifest and the music community is a little stronger at Reggae, but it's all intertwined. I have the same friends go to both events. So.
For sure. I think it depends who you ask about that same thing too, because It's like we have like Reggae is such a legendary Humboldt thing.
Yeah.
And it's always been about the like outlaw cannabis community. Right. And now we have Cannifest came in right around legalization. We started Cannifest for a reason.
Right.
Trying to pop out in the light.
Well, yeah. And
so
you
we
guys
really have these 2 events that are kind of boom.
Right. And you guys can take the liberty to go outside of Reggae, get guys like Oteil and Friends, which it was amazing last year. That was an epic performance. And then this year you have String Cheese.
We brought the cheese to Humboldt.
That's next level.
They haven't been there in over 2 decades. I remember the last time they came to the show, I was definitely there.
One of the most psychedelic bands on the planet. Their music is curated for the experience, right? I feel like
100%.
It's always an experience, and it's always a different experience. And I feel like the Grateful Dead was like that in a lot of ways, right? And String Cheese has their own version of that, like that magic.
I completely agree.
And it's like Fish has their own version of that magic too, right? So we've got several jam bands, and then we've got String Cheese that does it totally different.
They do,
and I love how they do it. It's just an epic experience. And
I agree. It's such a positive vibe. Like, in my world, I've seen over 100 Fish shows and about half that many String Cheese shows and whatnot. Yeah. Wish I saw 100 Dead shows, but that didn't happen for me.
Right.
But the energy that I remember at the Grateful Dead show when I first came in, it shows up mostly at the String Cheese show for me.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. It's just this magical kind of like, rainbows and hula hoops.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah. Seriously.
It just brings that good vibe in there. And Fish shows are next level as well.
I never got into Fish, right? It just wasn't my thing. And there's, it's like, it's all right. I like some of their songs, but I never went to a Fish show in my life.
Right.
It's just not my thing. And
understood.
Because I was so into the Dead when I was younger, as far as like, I love that style. And then Fish came along and it was like, it's just not my cup of tea, whatever. I don't need another.
I get that. I get that.
And it's okay.
I first saw the Dead in 94.
Yeah.
I was 16 and I went and saw the Dead a couple times. I went out to, I saw the last show at 3 River Stadium. That was the last, I got to see 3 or 4 Grateful Dead shows, 4. And then all of a sudden my friends were going to see Fish. And like, I listened to the music and it was extremely disconnected. It sounded like 3 different bands playing at once.
Right.
That's how I always remember Fish sounding.
That's how it sounds to me too.
Right.
I totally
get
what
that.
It is. But the people that love Fish.
It's a very cult thing.
Very cool. Well, just like the Dead,
Definitely.
I mean? But I feel like Metallica is like that too. We got these guys that love
Definitely.
Metallica.
Pearl Jam has that too.
Oh yeah. You got these followers and they're just, obsessed with the music but it's really obsessed with the experience more than anything. I think
it is.
All this stuff, it becomes an experience. And that's what makes Reggae on the River special. And that's what makes Cannifest so special.
It is. It is the experience and the community around that. Right. And really, I think people believe the magic still.
Right.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And when we show up in big numbers together, it's one of the last things we do as like the human race, where we're just in our like tribal mode.
Right.
You show up in the woods after day 2 of Reggae last year, bro. I saw you were in tribal mode.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
It kicks in. I love that. I absolutely love that part of the experience. And I was thinking about, the other day when I was going through some traffic and I was sitting in traffic and, there was police cars and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, in smaller communities where it's very tribal, everybody kind of takes part to benefit the community or the tribe, right? Especially at that tribal level, right? So everybody plays an active part in providing something for the tribe and they grow together. And as it gets bigger and bigger, you lose that. It starts, with community. But then if you do something that takes away from the community, it's not as big of a deal. But in a tribal, you could destroy the tribe could go away.
Right.
And so everyone depends on everybody else. Whereas as it gets bigger in population, it's a completely different thing. And that's what I love about these events is like the tribal side of it, and same thing with my group of friends. It's like, in some ways we are very tribal. Like everybody does something for everybody else. It's a give and take type thing. Like I'm helping my friends, they're helping me. And when your friends have your back and you have your friends back, it's a very good feeling.
Sure is.
I feel like it's one of those things where you can sleep well at night.
Definitely. It's like this respect and integrity and just, knowing
balance,
that other people have your back. You don't have to look over your shoulder.
Totally.
If you dropped your phone or something, somebody came up and handed it to you.
Yeah.
That happened to Cannifest so many times last year. I seen people do things like that. And people came up to me telling me different experiences they had.
Right.
And it's about that community, the unity when you bring everyone together. And there's something different about that. And that's what drew me to Humboldt County.
Yeah.
That's what brought me there to begin with. And I haven't left in 25 years. And everybody else should be up here checking this out because there's a unique experience that you will not get anywhere else. I promise.
Well, I've been saying this for years. I can only go up to Humboldt a couple times a year because if I go up too often, I'm going to stay.
Understood.
Right? And so Rick from Royal Gold, we got Rick and hanging out with him. It's like, man, I could live up here. I like the people up there. I like a lot of things about the community. And I just like the vibe, right?
Rick's one of the vibiest people in Humboldt though, too. Like he definitely represents like the Humboldt spirit.
That energy.
And truly, I'm sure Rick would agree, it's probably like the Grateful Dead spirit.
Yeah.
It's something that got left there with the music.
Dude, it got sprinkled throughout the U.S. It got sprinkled in these small pockets, right? And it's in the Bay Area too. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely that sprinkled magic.
Definitely.
Is definitely here with a lot of my friends. I have a lot of friends in Humboldt too, but it's like there's something about the nature, the fact that there's not all the bright lights.
Yeah.
That you can go out and you can be at the ocean in a couple minutes. You can go up into the mountains in a couple more minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like the weather's beautiful up there. And, I don't know, the fires are a little scary.
Yeah.
But, we have earthquakes. We have other things in other places.
For
hurricanes and, depending on where you go in the United States, there's all kinds of other things.
It's really I feel like I leave the trees. Like I feel like I'm without trees right now.
Yeah.
You got some trees right here on the table, though.
We do. We got good trees. Got lots of good trees.
I see you got mad seeds over here, too.
We do. These are just the ones that we can't put into bags.
Right on. Well, I got pockets,
Yeah. You can eat these seeds, too,
Hemp is good. Hemp seeds.
Yeah. It's all hemp. Complete protein.
That's it.
So, we were working with Dave the other day on the review show, and he told me that you guys have a lot of history. He talked great things about you. Said you guys worked together for a long time. He got some mentoring from you on some levels, and spoke very highly of you. And he said you've been doing this for a long time, and at your grow shop, 25 years or something like that.
It's true. I moved to Humboldt County 25 years ago, and I opened a grow shop called Northcoast Horticulture Supply.
Wow.
And we quickly became the largest grow shop in America at the time in a small town called McKinleyville that has 17,000 residents.
Right.
We had the largest, busiest grow shop for a couple years. Then other states started going legal.
Yeah, there's 500,000 plants and 17,000 residents.
Yeah. At least.
Yeah.
No, McKinleyville is a trip. It was definitely seemingly the highest per capita cannabis plant per human being kind of residential neighborhood I ever knew of. There was always one or two of the bedrooms in the house people slept in, and then the rest of the house, the garage, the kitchen, and a couple other bedrooms people grew weed in.
Yeah.
I just happened to be in Humboldt at a time, the Green Rush era, if you will.
Right.
I moved to Humboldt, and a couple months later, we had a new DA in town called Paul Gallegos. He got voted in, and his campaign was, I will not prosecute green drug cases.
Wow.
So he got voted in, and everybody started showing up at the grow shop wanting to grow 99 plants in 100 square feet. And then there was all the scripts. Everybody had an ID, and they went to the doctor, and the doctor said they could have their own 100 square feet.
Yeah.
And the law was written in a way by the lovely lawyers that helped us out writing this thing to begin with, that I could grow for you, I could grow for the neighbor and the neighbor and the neighbor and the neighbor. Now, 20 people traded each other all their scripts and made copies of them all.
Right.
Now we got 20 people growing 20 times the amount of weed.
Yeah.
All these scripts are posted on the doors.
Stacked up.
These cops would show up and be like, what are we supposed to do here?
Right.
They didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They take people's weed, they had to give it back. So they just stopped taking it. And we overgrew the government.
Right.
And here we are.
Literally. And here we are today.
But that's really what happened when I take a flashback to like when I met Dave.
Yeah.
When he walked in the shop, when his girlfriend at the time, and his wife, Christy, when she came in the shop. I remember meeting these kids, and we all liked live music, and they were off the fish tour shows. And
right.
My wife now, Sasha, was good friends with Dave and Christy. I had known them from the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dave wanted to open a grow store in Christie, and they came in and we talked about it, and they built their masterpiece, and they came up with the business plan, and they found the means to make it happen, and moved out of Humboldt as the whole kind of weed game was shifting in Humboldt there. The price of herb was dropping quick.
Right.
And those guys were on the early, let's get out of Humboldt and do something different train. And they went up to Washington and opened up a shop and started selling hydro gear and helping the community there grow their own medicine and doing it from the living soil, organic, hydro side of things. We did it all together. We learned so much in Humboldt around those times. Everybody worked together to push the science, push the technology,
Right.
Like this whole concept of living soil. It was something kind of sort of invented and specialized in Northern California, in Humboldt, in Mendo, up in Eugene, up in the Jefferson State.
Right.
And it really changed the whole world. It's like we opened a store in St. Louis about 5.5 years ago, and the first customer that came in the store, it blew my mind. This first kid walked in the store, asked me, you guys know what live soil is? And I just had this whole flashback of like the first time somebody walked in my grow shop in Humboldt 20 years before that, and how much of that information is now shared. Living soil and organic inputs, that whole information is shared readily throughout the internet, on podcasts, and it's just such a different world to get into now. It's really amazing to get into the cannabis space right now. I try to view it from the younger perspective, like someone that's just come into this.
Yeah, it's a lot different.
It's amazing, really, what's happened when you overgrow the government.
We were a bunch of cowboys back in the day, and you had to be. You had to be fearless and a lot of other things. Ruthless and fearless and, to survive. Mm. Now it's different, and it's not what it used to be. It's a completely different arena. The way we grow is different. The lights we use are different.
Yeah.
The inputs we use are different. But it's funny because like you can go back to 3-part and get great results. 3-part in soil is great. Rock wool done right is great. It's so much about the cultivator and not just the substrate or the nutrients. There's lots of good nutrient companies out there now. Lots. There's a lot of people. The funny thing back in the day, as a grow shop guy, we used to put 18 different inputs into the plant, right? So like we had all these different nutrients, and we had these crazy recipes. Now it's like for the most part, if you follow the recipe that's on the container or what they provide online, like Athena with their Pro line, United, Cutting Edge, House and Garden, any of these guys, they give you the secrets that we used to have to pay for, or we'd have to know somebody to get, because the recipes, the standard stock recipes, were garbage back in the day for the most part.
Well, that's a fact. Yeah, that's a fact. When House and Garden came to the U.S., I got the first palette of product. It had some kind of feed charts that we had to get, translated. It was Dutch. Wasn't that hard to translate to English, but figured it out. And they had different feed charts for white strains.
Mm-hmm.
Like the white strains would take less nutrient.
Oh, wow.
So they had like a white strain, which became what we called like the standard, and instead of pushing the plants. So I made the feed chart for House and Garden.
Wow.
I made the feed chart that exists today.
Mm-hmm.
It started out one way and it developed into this whole calculator.
Right.
And that was something I made based on feedback from all of our customers.
Yeah.
And then experiments that we would do in the shop at our grows at home.
Yeah.
And then just taking all this feedback, I developed the feed chart for House and Garden. Then we'd be at the trade show and here's this big wig. This guy just won one of his awards and he's the man, and everyone's taking pictures with him and stuff. And then they're over here at the booth talking to us about, so what'd you do? Oh, I used the, intense level of nutrient on the feed chart. I'm like, so you followed the feed chart? Like, yep. Boom. Nice work.
Yeah, it's amazing because like literally we would piecemeal a menu and go off of these different things and then experiment one thing at a time after we had a base recipe.
Every time.
We'd like, okay, we'll put this in. If it improves it, we stick with that.
You had like the 2, 3, 4, the GH thing. People would just come in with 3 numbers when I first opened the shop. They're like, I run this. I'm like, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, I 3 parts of this to 1 part of this. This is my veg. And then on Bloom, I do 1 part of this, 4 parts of that, and 2 parts of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd just help them do the calculations to know how much they needed to buy.
Right.
But when I was doing that, I'm figuring out, I'm like, where are you getting this recipe? Oh, some old bro told me like 2-1-1 and then you do 4-1-1. I'm like, this is wild. And this was just and then people saw there's other products.
Right.
And so they started, let me try this. Well, that seemed to help.
Right.
Try this one too. Oh, wow. That helped too. So then you end up with 18 different things. You're using 3 different people's recipes. And sometimes it was great. And then other times the same. You're like, man, something happened. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was one of those 18 things that I switched.
5 gallons of water and 5 gallons of soil are 2 different things too. A lot of people, if you're not in the industry, you don't know that. You think 5 gallons is 5 gallons. It's like, no, man, a 2-gallon pot is not equivalent to 2 gallons of water. It's just.
We did our best on the first House and Garden true feed chart to break all those things down that people would come in the stores and have problems with. And that helped our brand rise to the top when GH and Botanicare were not doing that because those guys were not at the store solving these problems still. I
loved me Botanicare though back in the day. I got some good results with in fact, I used to take the Botanicare and mix it with the Flora Nova.
The Flora Nova was how Botanicare combo.
Yeah, that was the recipe.
Nice.
Literally that combo was the best, right? Because Flora Nova is the organic. Botanicare's got the fucking. I love that company. That company was great.
They were great.
And then there was Growilla. They got bought by Botanicare. That was my friend Josh Freeman. He had the Growilla, the organic line of stuff. And we used to use Dark Energy. Nobody uses Dark Energy. I mean, I think I still have a jug somewhere, but that was the one that's sea kelp.
It stinks, but it rocks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it said on there.
Yep.
And it did stink.
It did stink.
1 drop of that stuff on the carpet ruined the carpet.
Well, so we used to use like this fish powder that was super high in nitrogen. So like I would put it on my plants starting when your plants start to turn yellow for seed production, right? So in seed production, I go 4 weeks typically past your harvest date. And so I'd want to keep my plants as healthy as long as I could. So I got the seeds, and seeds are mostly nitrogen. So let's feed them more nitrogen. It works great outside, but the second you spray it inside, like you don't want to live in the same house you spray that stuff
fish
in.
Emulsion's
it's
one of the
just
worst.
Rotten fish.
Especially that micronized powder you're
that
talking
micronized
about.
powder is just rotten, and it just it goes into your walls and it stays there.
Facts. So the particles are so small that it gets everywhere.
Oh yeah, it gets in the air and then gets in the walls.
Chicken shit's one of the only other things that can compete on just gnarliness,
just foulness,
really. Just rough things. But mixing them all at the right amounts and adding some bacteria, little fungi, some food for that fungi, and some air. Get the right temperatures going. Man, you're making a compost tea.
Dude, I love the old Hum tea. We did the Hum tea for the longest time.
The Hum tea.
That was the one.
I named it.
Really?
My lame claim to fame on your show today is that
No way.
I named Hump Tea.
That was the one. So,
John from Cutting Edge Solutions. We were the first store in Humboldt to sell the nutrients.
Yeah.
And then he had one other guy in Ukiah selling it. I forgot the name of him now. Something hydro. So we started selling the fertilizer, and then a few months later, I met John, and he started talking way over my head and way over everybody else's head. But I was grabbing as much as I could of that science from him and trying to understand how this was going to help me and my friends grow better weed. And he started bringing in this compost tea concoction that he was learned to make from Soil Food Web from Elaine Ingham up in Corvallis.
Yeah.
That whole science there was new to the weed grower. It was new. It was just blossoming. And John was there as the champion on compost tea. So we were giving it away left and right. People were coming back with minds blown from seed people to flower people to everything in the middle. There was a way to use this tea to help your plants, and people were blown away. And he'd be on the phone with me. He'd be in my shop with me talking hours after I was already closed.
Yeah.
And my wife at the time would call up and be like, "Hello, is John there?" I'm like, "Do you see that? She's asking for you because she knows I'm still here at work talking to your crazy ass." So we would just talk for hours about science. And I was like, "I got to go, dude. Sell me the goddamn tea. Let's get out of here.
Rock and roll."
And he's like, "Well, I don't have a name for the stuff." I'm like, "Just call it Hum Tea. It's like Humboldt. It's tea."
Yeah.
You got boom. That was it.
Nice.
He needed a name to write on the receipt. Hum Tea.
Love it.
Was born.
Yeah, and good stuff. And it's like originally we did the tea with the nylons. I'd steal the wife's nylons.
Yep.
In the 5-gallon bucket. Then we leveled up to the Vortex brewer.
Oh yeah, we started selling the pump filter bags.
Yeah.
It was like, just put all the tea in the filter bag.
Right. Oh yeah, like
Keep it a little cleaner, and then
we've done things wrong a lot in the beginning. Learning how to do it the right way. I think there's a lot of people who have experimented and figured out, and we're doing it the way we're doing it now because so many people did it wrong and figured out how to do it right. So many bubble hash.
But right.
Yeah, that was originally silk screens, right?
Well, no, like the shared information between the Bay, the Humboldt Bay, and the San Francisco Bay here.
Oh yeah,
changed the world of cannabis. Have you been growing and involved in the weed world in San Francisco your whole career?
In the 90s, yeah, in the 90s, even the Bay Area. Not just San Francisco, but San Francisco, East Bay.
Yeah.
I'm an East Bay guy, but I love San Francisco as well.
Yeah.
Had shops in Oakland.
It's just like the synergy that happened like 25 years ago that I saw was this whole recipe that was happening between the Bay and Humboldt.
Well, yeah, and I think post 1996, Prop 215.
Yeah.
Right. After that, their dispensaries started popping up. And with the dispensaries, people were vending. And so we have vendors coming from Humboldt all the way into the Bay because that's where the people are. And those guys are talking to other vendors that are waiting to sell their stuff. And I used to vend and have great meetings at BPG. There was the waiting room at BPG. And you would wait and you would meet other people. And I met some cool people. My friends met other cool people there too. And in so many shops, Harborside, and it's these places it was the Mecca for one thing, the Bay Area. And then on top of that, the shared information that was coming down from the hills, right?
That's what it's all about.
Outdoor farmers started growing indoors too. And then they were giving their feedback, and we were talking about nutrients, recipes, making hash, doing all these things. It's pretty wild how within that network, a lot of information, including genetics, got shared and sold.
100%, right? Because you got the buyers talking to the growers and everybody in between, but it's like, how'd you get it to look like this? What's this one? I want one like this, but like that too. So then we're crossing these things for you, or trying to grow more of that other kush again, more kush, more kushes, and then boom, no kush no more.
Right.
We call it other things now. Mm-hmm. It's still there.
Well, so it's funny because the original kushes that I saw, where it was like the Hindu kush, and some of these Afghani kush, Hindu kush, we saw those in the 90s, but they weren't the kushes like the OG kush that we know today. They were completely different.
Definitely.
A very complex profile, but musty and sweet sometimes.
Yeah.
But very, these were amazing profiles and smoked amazing and got you really high and tasted, delicious.
Like this Afghan stuff. That's what we used to have, these really short, purple Afghan
early finishers
plants that were the Kush.
Yeah.
That was, and then to me, that was always my favorite, those little Afghani purple plants.
Yeah.
And they're around. I mean, we have one in our fresh strain lineup called Afghani.
Nice.
And it's one of those old little purples crossed with the biscotti.
Mm-hmm.
And it just it has that flavor we're talking about, but they're out there, but they're hard to find.
Yeah.
But when people get that stuff, they love it still. So what happened?
The thing is like a lot of stuff. It's like I was talking the other day to Ray Bama about like these things, like where's the GDP? Whoever has the GDP probably be printing money right now.
Right.
Right. Like literally if you have the real cut, the purple GDP, and there's people that have a GDP or a expression, maybe it's the same plant, but it expresses differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same expression that we grew up with in the Bay.
Definitely.
Right. Like, or even it was in Mendo, it was in the Bay, it was in Santa
the GDP
Cruz,
first, and then it was the Mendo perps, whatever. But it's that granddad.
Mendo was its own thing. Like I used to drive up to Mendo specifically to get the Mendo perps, and that was purple and funky and chunky buds. And we used to pay what most people would think of as indoor prices for outdoor weed.
Yeah.
And there was a time I went up with my buddy Steve to go get some pounds of weed, and we had to go to Mendocino and to get this purple weed and go to this parking lot in the middle of the night. And we'd go there and the guy would shine the light to walk towards it. And he would end up on the other behind us by the time we got towards the light. And it was like so sketch, you know what I mean? Like people die in those kind of situations.
Definitely.
But and I was in my mid-teens at that time.
Yeah.
But I loved weed and I loved adventure, and it was wild back then. But yeah, and so the Mendo perp that I remember was very different, but it was big chunky buds and sticky weed. Like a lot of the stuff was so sticky back then. You don't see the sticky where you could thumb it to the glass, right? Like you could thumb it to your glass window.
That's true.
It'd be, we used to thumb it to everything and see if it'll stick.
A lot of the crossing and a lot of what people chased out of the strains that we now have.
Yeah, the hash plants don't necessarily do that, right? The hash plants are looking for something more gritty, right?
I think that's a big part of what it is. I was just going to say that. It's like that oily, greasy stuff doesn't make a lot of hash.
Right.
So it's been bred out a lot in a lot of cases.
Greasy stuff.
Like, I mean, so that greasy, sticky, nasty, cushy shit we used to get a lot more of is just, it's harder to find because it makes a mess in your bubble bags and
right.
You don't get a lot out of it.
Sour comes out, like the bubble hash comes out real greasy. It's oily. I love sour diesel. I love sour diesel in every form. And that is some sticky weed. Right.
Even like this rosin I'm bringing here with me, it's like, it's the only thing I have that has some diesel in it.
Yeah.
The only rosin I got right now, it's got some good diesel in there.
I got some good rosin that has crazy diesel. It's almost foul, like gasoline.
Yeah.
It's like that rocket fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's what this is. Permanent marker. That's what this one is.
I like marker, and as a breeder, the only thing with permanent marker is it breeds into everything and it has mostly marker expressions. Like you get a lot of where it's almost obvious. Like when you smell somebody that if they did a permanent marker cross, it's like, that's permanent marker.
It's like GMO. You can always.
Right. It's like on that level of GMO where it's like GMO, you cross it, all these burger crosses and all these things have GMO. Mm-hmm. And really that all originated with Chem D. Chem D was like, it's milder than GMO, but it's where that gas came from. Cause I remember that gas from way back when, and it's like, it's almost body odor-ish gas, like dead lot body odor.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And that's that Chem D smell.
Little cat piss in there.
Yeah, a little piss in there is okay too. Like, but yeah, it's on that level of like borderline offensive. Some people would be offended with the smell. And I it's nostalgic for me where I'm like, oh yeah, that Chem D especially is like, I love good Chem D and I get it every once in a while. I got a couple friends that grow it and friggin', it made a comeback about 5 years ago. They started selling cuts. Mm-hmm. Jay and Bo over at Finest back in the day before Jay passed, they had it on the menu over there.
Okay.
And friggin' brought that thing back to life.
Right on.
And so those cuts from TC got spread out.
Okay.
And that was a good one.
I definitely saw some more sours a few years back. People were crossing that into a bunch of stuff. And
the Gorilla's another one. Like that's a good one too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of gone away a little bit. I mean,
I love the herb. When I see it, when I see it come through, I always try to scoop it for our company or for my head.
Right.
But the last time we brought it in, everyone was like, "Nah, dude, Gorilla's old, dude. Nobody wants that anymore. It's sold so quick.
Yeah,
It's sold so fast. People love Gorilla Glue.
So
and you
people-
have the real one.
Yeah.
And maybe some younger people never had they never had it.
Right.
They never had Trainwreck.
No, they talk shit about it. They talk shit about good Blue Dream. They talk shit about Blue Dream and don't realize that Blue Dream is amazing in so many ways. And each one of these cultivars is special, and maybe it's not your cup of tea, but it's like grown right. It's like that stuff was sticky, big, beautiful buds in the bag. How's that?
It's delicious.
That flavor's good, huh?
Yeah. I just picked up something totally different the second time through. That's what.
It's got that mouth coat too.
Mm-hmm. What strain do you got here?
That's my go-to. That's the Dr. Zeus in there.
The Dr. Zeus. Yeah. All right. Is this a James
Skittles.
Loud genetic here?
The Skittles cross, yeah.
Skittles cross? Right on. Yeah, that's a good one. My partner G would love that. All he smokes is Skittles. He's a Skittles snob, which is, it's
I like
a thing.
it all. I do like Skittles, but then I'll go to the Crippy. We got some Crippy right now that's like old school gas. I like, dude, we smoked some Starburst OG rosin on a show the other day, and man, that was amazing.
I must get a little purpley flavor in this.
Floral-ish. Yeah, it's
there's
a little
floral
bit.
perp in there.
I got
Reminds me of a little Mendo perps like we were just talking about a minute ago.
So yeah, if you're 2 weeks too early, but we got the ZDP drop, and we'll have some flower with my cultivation partners that'll be ready in about 2 weeks. And that is Granddaddy with the hint of candy, and I think
Right on.
it's got that crazy, crazy flavor. It burns down to the roach like that.
Uh-huh.
I'm hoping that it washes a little bit. Even if it washes just as good as Skittles, I'm gonna be super happy.
All right, good.
Just to be able to have rosin of it, because it's already got that floral characteristic like Granddaddy Purple that I think everyone's kind of missing that. We got Whitethorn. I love Whitethorn Rose. Shout out to Johnny.
Delicious. Yeah.
Talk about it on my show, almost
That's
every
good
show.
stuff.
The Whitethorn's like, yeah, it's the new hype strain that's not the hype strain. And that's
It's
what
such
I
a
love about it.
loud strain that it's hard to forget about it.
What's the effect too? So like what people don't understand is like you hear all these people talk about Whitethorn, why it's so good is the effect. Is above it all else, it has that feel good effect. Like you can smoke it any time of the day or night, anytime when you're depressed, when you have anxiety, whatever. It's like one of those cure-all type flavors.
I agree.
Right. And I just like the way it makes me feel. And we've gone so far away from that effect conversation.
This is great. Having this effect conversation right now is because it's something I want to hear from more people what they think about how important the effects are related to all these other categories that we're supposed to be judging weed from in competitions or as a ganjier or as a buddhist or the different groups we have out here with assessment tools.
Yeah.
We're looking at different things and we're giving them like equal weights, right? And so for the Head Stash Bowl, we're developing a tool that we're going to use in New York for the first time. It's our own application.
Yeah.
But the idea behind it is certain things are given more weight because they're more important.
Right.
Like effects.
Effects should be given more weight. But the problem is so with judging these competitions, you have 2 weeks or 3 weeks sometimes longer, sometimes less. But they want you to judge effects. And like I'm working with doing these entries right now for this event. And it's like, we're a judge for this event and they expect me to go through 60 entries in the next less than 2 weeks.
Right.
Right. And they said I could have a little bit of an extension because I really want to get into at least the majority of them. There's some where I'm like, I'm not going to smoke that. Right. There's some stuff where I'm just like, okay, there's botrytis or there's powdery mildew and you guys put in an entry that you paid for. I'm a little bummed out, but I write that on there that I'm not going to try this even because of these flaws. Right.
Yeah. That's why we test all of the samples we get to make sure we don't give our judges botrytis.
Well, I think a lot of it's visual too, though. Like, I mean, it's just that visual.
Disqualified.
Yeah. Dude, seriously.
We have the disqualified button on our app as well.
Yeah.
And then it asks you, what'd you disqualify for? Dog hair, botrytis, other.
I can pick out the dog hair. For me personally,
you'll pull them out?
I don't give a shit. Dog hair, mites, I'll smoke some mites. I don't.
Mites aren't bad.
No, mites aren't bad. A little protein.
A little spice.
A little spice. Yeah. I mean, but in all reality, like it's those cultivation flaws. Like, yeah, if you had a little bit of mite damage in there, it's not going to bother me, right? I mean, you won't see the mites; they're going to leave, right? But there'll be mite damage on there. That's not going to bother me as much. Maybe that's one of those pest pressures that'll bring out the terps. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. There's totally reality there. You know,
I've seen some of the shiniest herb being attacked by mites.
Yeah, and I had friends that have thrip problems that have the most terpiest weed ever, and my buddy's like scared to completely eradicate the thrips because his terps are so loud, and I'm like, I can't blame him.
No,
it's not my thing.
Taking your yield down tough.
Yeah, maybe.
Depends on how many.
Yeah, or if you care about the yield. If all you care about is the terps,
and what kind of thrips are they? There's tons of thrips out there.
Totally. UVC works really good. Shout out to Grandmaster LED. He's been on the show before. But I'm using UVC now, and we did have like a couple spots where we were like, oh yeah, there's some thrip damage. Didn't see too much of the thrips. Completely eradicated the thrips. I actually,
right on,
dude. I turned the lights on a little too much. I didn't get proper SOPs like I should have. And I ran them for a little bit too long per night, and now we've tuned it back to where we don't even use them unless we see something, and then we'll use them till we get rid of it. But like literally for IPM, I prefer the UVC in the facility because we're not spraying stuff. Yeah. We wear gloves. You know, we use protective equipment when we're touching the plants and stuff. But like literally, if I can not spray plants when I'm pheno hunting, or in the nursery where I sell them, and I sell people clean plants that have never been sprayed, I feel pretty good about that.
Hell yeah. It's hard to find plants for sale that don't have something.
Yeah, and if you would have told me 20 years ago they'd have some light spectrum that you could put on your plants at night and you wouldn't have problems with pests and you wouldn't have to use any of these things, you know, because like Avid is something that we used a long time ago because we needed to use it. We felt we needed to use it. We didn't fully understand, but everybody used it. It was like a standard. It was like, we didn't spray it in flower. We didn't spray it in veg. Typically, we dipped the clones in it. And it's not the worst thing in the world for that. It's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst.
For sure.
Because it's a translaminate, so it coats the plant. It's not systemic like some of these other things that are hardcore that like, I mean, Eagle 20, for instance, is just so bad.
No, I know.
And so I've, you know, my aunt, you know, always telling me like, you know, whatever you can do to grow organic products, you know, whether eating organics, smoking organics, she's always been into organics ever since I started smoking. She would always give me this organic lecture. She's from Washington. And so I would bring genetics up to her. And
what kind of strains do you remember that she was rocking?
Dude, she grew the sour diesel and the chem dog for the longest. They were the ones in Washington that really brought it up into even the Seattle area, was the chem and the sour. But like they had Bubba Kush, they had the Larry Bubba, they had the
Larry
the
Bubba.
Vortex
OG.
Yeah, the old school. Dude, they had so many really good hitters. I can't even think of the other ones, but yeah, they had some really, really great. And I would bring her up genetics, and they would grow them amazing. The problem is like the drying and the curing is rough up in Washington. If you didn't get in the bag properly right away, or the second, it's so humid up there.
Yeah.
Right. Colorado's so dry. We have this beautiful climate in California. So I go up there and want to show everyone my weed. And literally by the second day of me showing jars to my friends, my weed doesn't smell the same. I'm like, where the fuck are the trips? You actually have to squeeze the bud because the humidity.
Yeah.
You know, you can't leave your jars open where it's super humid, where it's like 90% humidity in the winter or whatever it is.
No, it's like that in Humboldt from the coast, just from 45 minutes out to Willow Creek to my house in Trinidad. It's like the complete opposite curing environment. But I think that's one of the things too in Northern California as to what helped our weed stand out so much is this ability to take it from this drier environment where it was grown and cured to a certain degree and then brought a little more coastal to finish curing and get bagged up more and stored for a longer period of time. It really is like a naturally people were just luckily doing the right thing. You know,
well, it's so funny because 12 or 13 years ago, I was up in Humboldt County and I got to go to a farm where they were doing selections from pheno hunting, right? So they were doing these selections from their big pheno hunt where they made seeds the year before, and they were doing it indoors, and it was kind of in the winter, and it was like super humid, and there was PM over like 60, 70% of everything in the room. And I'm like, dude, what are you guys doing? There's so much PM in here. And it was Ryan from HSO, right?
Okay.
Like literally Ryan from HSO. And I don't know if you know Ryan.
I know Ryan very well. That's so funny. I haven't talked to Ryan in a while, but
and so
that's funny you know Ryan for
yeah.
sure.
So he's taking me into one of their spots, and they're doing some selections for the following year, and it's the winter, and they'd pop seeds, and it's like the end of winter. So this is like March or something like that. But there's a bunch of PM, and this is like very coastal.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I mean, very, very coastal to where there's like this crazy PM. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, oh no, we're going to kill all those. See the ones that don't have it? Those are our keepers. And I was like, son of a bitch. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You know, stress testing. I mean, that's a great way to stress test.
Definitely.
You can test for powdery mildew resistance. And that's the real way to do powdery mildew resistance.
Definitely.
So
take that shit into Arcata and try to kill the plants or McKinleyville. And like, then you'll see what powdery mildew really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a fact. That's funny.
Small world.
Talk to Ryan. Shout out to Ryan HSO. Where you at?
Yeah, those guys. We were with them in Spain, 2012.
Okay, right on.
Interesting group. Good group of guys.
Definitely. They were pulling in some Dina Femme stuff, and
they were working with Dina Femme out there, rocking and rolling. And Dina Femme is no more, unfortunately.
No, but that's I got to meet those guys when I went out there for house and garden stuff, and
nice.
Selling nutrient stuff and connecting the dots from some of the cats I met through the relationship with building that company.
Right.
To then trying to, I'm like, so hook me up with your bros that's got the genetics and shit.
Yeah.
So I got introduced to a few people that way, and then went out to visit Ryan in
San Sebastian.
San Sebastian. What a great place to be. What a great town to be.
He's the one. I was there with him and Eric.
Amazing bites.
The pinchos are great.
Oh, bro.
Well, the nightlife, right? So the nightlife, and so they're the ones who turned me on to the nightlife out there. It's pretty funny because we went out there to hang out with them, and then I go back there, every couple of years. We
must have been there close in the same time. You said 2012 or something? Yeah, we must have been there
2012, 2013
a couple months of each other, maybe. Who knows? A year.
This was like post Cup in 2012, so it was like the spring of 2013.
Okay, right on.
We were going out there the summer of 2013. I went out there. We went out there quite a few times actually, but it was really wild. And I love that lifestyle where you can go to it's cobblestone streets, and you can go from one place to the next where you have one drink and you eat a pincho or you have a small bite.
Yeah,
and go from one place to the next. Dude, those guys used to love karaoke, so it was funny ending up at some karaoke spot. Destiny singing karaoke.
Oh my god.
So yeah,
my god.
I don't even know where you are, Destiny, but if you're out there,
shout out to Destiny.
Send us a message. Yeah, I mean,
up in Humboldt, maybe.
She's probably up in Humboldt. She's amazing. Yeah,
I think she might be still there somewhere.
Yeah,
yeah. So, but walking around those streets, they know how to do happy hour. That's where happy hour must have been invented.
Seriously,
that's the real deal.
In the 1400s. Yeah, Christopher Columbus brought that over from Portugal, and I'm sure the happy hour.
Something, dude. That was so much fun.
Yeah,
can't wait to go back.
Yeah, it's an adventure. I love Barcelona too. I have some of my closest friends.
Cannabis to where?
To Bilbao, which is like very close to San Sebastian.
Yeah, We're gonna see you there next year.
No,
probably
not. No, and it's nothing against Cannabis. I love Cannabis. It's my favorite event. I'm probably not going to go out there.
Okay, cool.
It's nothing personal. Just
curious.
There's so many events and so many things. It's I'm locked in. My schedule is getting booked up for 2026 already.
Good for you.
And I think that's a good way to be. I think
a little planning goes a long way.
It does. And then the more you plan, the less you fail, the less you fuck up, the less things you miss.
That's a fact.
And I think having a good team and being super organized is very important.
I agree. We came up with a few years back, like no events unless we have at least 100 days, which is still not enough time to actually do anything, right?
Right.
But that became, I just remembered like taking these adult steps, well into my 40s to plan ahead and to plan the next year or two out. Why not?
If you can. Yeah. I mean, I have some friends that are cultivators that literally have the next 18 months scheduled for their grow rooms, exactly what they're going to grow. And maybe they'll change some stuff along the way, but literally they know what their harvest dates are, what they're going to be putting their rooms in, when they need to cut new moms, when they need to cut from their moms, and how many plants they need to cut. One of my friends, he cuts like 30% more than what he needs, and he does the selections of the best clones of the, so he basically culls 30% or gives away to his friends.
Yeah.
And then just keeps the best for himself.
Yeah. That's the way to do it.
For sure. Yeah. And there's definitely nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that his yields are amazing. His flower is amazing and super consistent. So,
I mean, I've been amazed at watching people, farmers, growers, live by the rhythms of their plants.
Yeah.
For the last 25 years, knowing intricately what's happening in someone's grow space or out on their farm.
Yeah.
And seeing how that rhythm impacts and dictates their whole life cycle. I've always said for a long time now that like the plant has us working for her. You know, it's like,
Oh yeah.
think about the things that humans do for this plant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really an amazing, remarkable, ridiculous, and fabulous, you know, thing that happens. But
yeah,
from all the different aspects of it, it's quite wild. The energy that revolves around this plant that we've dedicated our lives to.
Well, yeah, and the thing is we get ego involved with so much of it. We think the plant's for us,
right?
But really, we're there for the plant. We're the stewards of this plant. Like we're here
working
to push
hard
the
for this thing
into whatever it's going to be in the future, right? Like it's our job to take care of it. It's our job to protect the genetics. It's our job to breed with integrity. It's our job to help move the plant along with moving ourselves and our peers, you know, into that next generation. These plants need to get moved in that next generation. And I mean, we need to talk about diversity and all these things, because I think there's this bottleneck thing that goes on with genetics where all these gelatos, they get all crossed together, right? And so we get these gelatos times gelatos times gelato, right? And so we're bottlenecking the genetics. Basically, you're inbreeding even though you think you're making new things.
Right.
And that's one thing I love about Humboldt. I'll be honest. The amount of diversity up in the genetics there, it's like, you know, you got from one farm to the next, people are growing different things. And there's gelato up there too. Don't get me wrong. And gelato is not a bad thing. It's everywhere. Runts, gelato, LCG, whatever you want to call it. I mean, those things are everywhere. Cookies is bred into a lot of stuff. But up in Humboldt, you see some amazing sativas, you know, with the equatorial structure, stuff that takes a lot longer to flower.
For sure.
You find some exotic stuff like Afghanica. You see some good Afghanica expressions.
Definitely.
Up in Humboldt. And you know, it's like you don't see that like in the Bay as often, right? There's very few people that actually appreciate a good sativa. And I don't just mean a haze, because I think a lot of people associate haze with sativas, but there's a lot of sativas that aren't necessarily hazy.
Oh, definitely. No, that's something that I've always been fascinated by, and that, you know, drives me to do the things that I do, like the business stuff. You know, it's like, luckily enough, I've got a festival thing going and a genetic thing and a dispensary and a distro and all these different things. But it's really, it all gives me another insight on this plant that I'm still learning from and trying to be involved with. You know, it's like we're stewards to the plant, but like when does that responsibility happen? You know, it's like when do you feel that, you know, that ultimate responsibility to be a steward, like you were just saying, for this plant? Some people it doesn't happen for, but you know, what is it?
I don't think everybody's meant to be a steward for this plant. I think the ones that are, they're meant to be stewards. You know it in your heart. It's one of those things that you know you're meant to be here. You know you're on the right path. You wouldn't do anything else. And I feel like some people, maybe just small parts of their lives, they push the plant forward in their own way, and that's okay, right? And then some people, we dedicate our lives to this plant where, you know, I've done a bunch of other things too with my life, but this is where I am right now, and this is what I love. And, you know, breeding and being able to work with the plant and find new genetics. I mean, that excites me to get up and be able to do that, and like to chase a passion is just so great. And then when your passion aligns with something that can actually make money, it's even better. You know what I mean? Then it's something that you can do as a career.
For sure.
And, you know, and it's a beautiful thing. And to be able to think that you can impact people's lives positively is a whole nother aspect to the whole thing where, okay, so I made millions of seeds in my life. I mean, many million, right? And if those all get germinated, or even if half those get germinated and put out there, how much good are you putting out there? Because the plant, just by the plant itself, it makes the world a better place. We're making more oxygen for the planet. It's a bioremediator. It does all these good things. And I think done correctly, it fights cancer. It does all these great things. And I mean, you're not seeing people sick, or you're not hurting people. You're actually empowering them to live better lives and do better things, and also think outside the box. I think people that smoke look at themselves a little bit differently. I think it takes away the ego to a degree.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a little bit of a leveler.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
There's other levelers out there too, you know.
Definitely.
Coming off the lot, and you know, I mean, but with psychedelics, and cannabis to me is a psychedelic in some ways.
It's an everyday psychedelic.
Right. Yeah. But it's one of those things that tunes you in, and that's what I love about it. Like, so psychedelics, as opposed to like alcohol and other hard drugs and a lot of these things, they're either the disassociate you from reality or they numb you to reality. Cannabis tunes you in. And I love that. Where like we can jump on the same vibration like we're doing now with this conversation, right? And with cannabis, it uplifts that. Whereas alcohol, it kind of
that blunt sure helped us get on the same page.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
And that is the thing with the herb when it brings people together.
Yeah.
You have like-minded people doing things that they like to do together, which is again back to that kind of tribal stuff. But I'm grateful for my life path to have been involved in having a business that I was selling people information that went along with the products.
Right.
But people were investing in a sense into these products for me. So I got lucky enough to sell you something that became more.
Yeah.
And if you manifested, you know, I'm grateful to all the people out there and for this path of people that supported my dream in a sense. Mm-hmm. But I've been in a position at different times where people are investing and making more from what I'm selling them. Right. So that's a unique position that doesn't really happen often. You know, it's like the pyramids were built that way when grain was the pay, and you could make that barley into beer. You could make it into an alcohol. You could make it into bread, or you could just trade with the grain. Yeah. You know, it's like people were being paid and investing their work into something that with a little more time and some craftsmanship or some artisanal input, you've got this value added piece to this whole life cycle ecosystem, which is where we are in this cannabis life cycle ecosystem where we are right now with the essence of the plant coming through in so many different ways. I remember thinking about what it's going to be like when we could get that molecule of THC and then concentrate it.
Yeah.
What kind of psychedelic would come from that?
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking like this before it was in my hand, you know, before these techniques and genetics and culture have shaped this thing in a way that it's such a magical thing to be a part of, but it's still, it's you know, it's escalating.
Right.
Where
it's
do we go?
Evolving.
Where are we going next with this? Like, how can we concentrate the herb more? It was when we got to the full concentrated form, everyone was like, whoa, we're missing all the good stuff. It's in the rosin.
We don't need 151, right? It's like, because you have these monoterps or these single cannabinoid, you know, THCA, or THCA is great, by the way, but like
for sure,
just by itself, THCA, like I think it has many amazing properties, but this full spectrum product is really what we're looking at. There's not a lot of people that go by 151 to just drink 151.
Right, but if you could take like a psychedelic molecule out of alcohol and concentrate that and get it, like where's that at? You guys got that shit yet over here? And that THC?
With the THC.
Where are we?
THCV,
why can't we pull that out and just start tripping balls on that stuff? Like, what am I missing? Where's it at? What are we waiting for? Yeah. Someone's got it.
Someone will find it.
I want that, right? Like, what are we doing? Like, if THC is psychedelic or whatever, the plant has psychedelic properties in there, how are we not tripping balls off of THC by itself by now? Right. That's what I've always thought. Yeah. Like that we would be able to take all the street drugs away. That THC is here to stay. Nice. And it's coming. And we can make it psychedelic. We can make it tired. We can make you tired. We know it can do all these things. Right.
But the thing is, now, like mushrooms, we have mushrooms. We have other amazing things like mushrooms.
Mushrooms are amazing.
Mushrooms are amazing. I eat mushrooms every morning, and not just psychedelic mushrooms. I literally eat mushrooms every day.
Nice.
I drink them, but I take mushrooms every day. Like literally, they make my life better.
Great.
You know, and I feel like there's these things, these compounds that we're just starting to scratch the surface of. You know,
agreed.
So basically, you can study a population, but our individual body chemistries are so uniquely different that the way it affects me might not necessarily be the way it affects you. And especially with things like psychedelics, like mushrooms and all these other things, and being able to measure them and how they work. Doctors have and that's why cannabis is so hard to prescribe, right? Because the one guy, he takes 10 milligrams and he's like, fuck, I feel pretty good. The next guy eats 10 milligrams and he's like, fuck, I need to go to the hospital. I got paranoia.
All day.
And so how it affects one person to the next, or my friend Connie, she can eat 1,000 milligrams with a smile on her face, no fear, I don't even think she really gets high from 1,000 milligrams, right? I think her body processes it differently.
Got that enzyme or whatever it is.
Whatever it is, it's pretty wild, you know? And so from one individual to the next, our body chemistries are so uniquely different. And the way we process cannabis can be so uniquely different from one cannabinoid to the next, even that, you know, and it's entourage effect. So it's not just cannabinoids.
It's so strain specific too. On top of all this,
for sure.
Now let's boom.
Well, and it's the combination of these things because there's like, you know, there's these sulfur-based compounds, these flavorants, I guess some people are calling them thiols
and esters.
Terpenes and so many different compounds all working together and our bodies all react different to all the different stuff. I mean, yeah, we both get high on this and sometimes we could even have the same experience. Just like when you're tripping balls and you have the same experience as your friends.
Well,
like
you saw that same thing?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Or you went through a whole friggin' 4 hours where you had the same experience as your friends, but nobody else would have had that same experience.
It's a trip when that happens. Yep. Yeah. That's why they call it a trip, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of like the dead. Like you have thousands of people all having the same experience, dialing in on the same vibration at the same time and evolving that vibration into something much bigger.
That shit scared me the first time I saw that for sure. And now my acid was just kicking in.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing like a woman who was 30 or 40 years older than me, just like, blah, blah, just getting it, you know, like spinning, doing the freak. The first time I went into the show and it was Bob Dylan. It was
nice
1994 at the Spectrum. And I walked in there. I mean, it's hardcore outside in Philly during a dead show. It's like there's lot scenes that are friggin' crazy. There's nitrous alley everywhere. And the cops are on horses and they're ready to just hop off and beat you with sticks.
Wow.
Like legit. That's how it the Philly cops don't play. And they were all ready when the hippies came to town for sure. So it was like this kind of a crazy vibe. So then you get into the show and you're like, all right, I'm in here. I'm vibing out. If things are going good. And then I get to this spot and then drums comes on or something. And this lady next to me just flips a lid. And I just remember being like, holy shit, am I ready? Am I ready for this?
Wow.
And then, you know, the acid kicked in and, you know, I was definitely ready.
Yeah.
I was sure that is exactly where I was supposed to be.
Well, that's how you want to go in. You want to go in and feel it and like let it do its thing. You don't want to resist. That's when you have problems. You can just breathe into it.
It's a fact. And the dead is a little heavy too. Some dead songs are heavy songs and darker space and stuff. And like the string cheese vibe is always uplifting.
It's always
It always is. It's really the perfect place for the experience, the psychedelic experience. And that's a big reason why we're excited to have him join us up in Humboldt this year.
Yeah, really cool.
You know, music's always been a part of my path, you know, in the herb.
Nice.
Luckily, following those things around and bringing them together has also been a way of making a living or spending all my money. It's like, you know, having events is really it's my way of just having a big party.
For sure.
And like inviting who I want to be at the party mostly.
Yeah.
Invite a couple kids you don't want there too to keep it fresh and stuff.
Sure.
But, you know, it's like the event production world, you've got to be completely insane to try to make sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I forgot your partner's name when I came in.
Eric,
you know, he was asking the smart questions. You want a partner that's breaking down the science and the numbers of stuff. And he was asking a couple quick questions about the event and the events when I came in. And I loved where he was going with it. And it was like, you have to realize to produce events, you're kind of a little bit loopy, but to produce like festivals and cannabis related events, that there's all this extra regulatory stuff on top of. And then people from the legal side and the legends or the legacy side or whatever it is, everyone's trying to pick a side and stuff with weed. It's like, this plant brings us together.
Right.
We're all on the same side. Let's be real, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Like we're doing this together.
So how did you get started with Cannifest?
Wanting to bring people together at the grow shop. And so we started having like a 420 event. And then it was like, well, a 420 event, you know, the newspaper made us call it April 20th, the first time we put it on the Northcoast Journal in Humboldt. They weren't ready for us to advertise 420 together yet. It was that. And it was only 20 years ago or so. But we started doing this thing at the store which was vendor days, you know, and we would bring in vendors and we'd bring in products and we'd tell the vendors if they gave us a booth, they could get a booth. They had to give us product that we would raffle off. We give the money to a nonprofit. People would show up and throw money to get all these cool grow supplies.
Yeah.
The money would go to a nonprofit. We'd bring some music and fun and food and we'd have a big old party at the shop. And then we thought this needed to be a week-long celebration of all things green in Humboldt County, which was the herb and the environment and our local and our economy. So that was Humboldt Green Week.
Right.
And after doing Humboldt Green Week for a number of years, we decided to add an expo at the end, which at the time was Humboldt Garden Expo. And I think somewhere around 2010 or 11, we had the first one of those. So we do Green Week with Humboldt Garden Expo at the end. And then 2015, we had Humboldt Garden Expo on Saturday, and Sunday became Cannifest. And just before legalization in California, we thought it was really the right time. We always used to hide behind this like grow shop industry to go come together and talk about genetics and come together and talk about how to grow good weed together and who to sell it to and how to get it there and come together and have our parties and do our tribal shit together like we were talking about. It was around these like kind of maximum yield trade show or these like grow shop kind of community trade stuff that was happening. And we thought we just needed to do it different. It needed to be rooted in community. It needed to be around the plant. All these people that were making all this money off of us at the maximum yield trade show, they weren't, you know, what they call now plant touching. They were touching something, but they weren't touching the plants. They were touching your money, making tons of money off the whole industry.
Right.
But not putting the party into it, not doing things back, not giving back, not building community. So we were like, let's do our own thing. It's called Cannifest, and it's a community cannabis festival, and we're going to take it around the world. We're going to take this Humboldt County thing. We're going to take this NorCal thing. We're going to take this San Francisco, H Street, Humboldt County thing. Yeah. And we're taking it around the world. And we're going to build it in Humboldt. We're going to have the Yes We Can parade, which we've done now 3 times. And we're going to take this thing to New York. We're going to take this thing to Philly. We're coming to Dubai, maybe. I don't know.
Nice.
But we want to take this thing.
Not Dubai, but yes.
Not Dubai.
Yeah. Maybe someday.
I have no idea.
Dubai.
Across the world, right. You know, truly. And like
Germany. Let's go to Berlin.
There we go. Yeah. Germany's just legalized.
Yeah. I'll be in Berlin in June. So,
Let's go. What's happening in June there?
Mary Jane. It's going to be the biggest event in the world, I believe.
All right.
They max out at 100,000 people. And so I think they're expecting, last time I heard was 50,000 people.
God damn.
So, you know, that's twice as big as Cannabis.
Epic.
Exciting.
That sounds like fun.
That's the vibe.
When in June? Is that early, later June?
It's mid-June. It's like, I think it's June 19th or something like that.
All right. I have to look into that. That would be interesting to go check that out.
Totally. It's going to be, and I got a booth there. I'm doing podcasts there. We're going to bring books out, have some seeds and books. Should be a lot of fun. We'll be out there with Grove bags.
All right. Right on.
Yeah. We're, you know you guys from Grove
Lance
as well.
Is great. Those guys are great at Grove bags over there.
Dude, I love Jack Lance, all the guys there. Like literally they have an amazing team. You know, shout out John too. You know, I love those guys.
Yeah, Grow bag in the place.
Yeah, they do great work, and you know, and it's not just that they make a good bag; it's they make a great bag, and they're great people, and the bag actually makes a difference. Like it's not just another bag.
Oh, there's an intention behind that thing. It works. I personally keep my head stash in the Grove bags.
Yeah,
I do.
Me too.
I like it better than the jar.
I know. I retired my jars. I had hundreds of jars, and now they're all gone. And now I have Turplock bags.
You just put seeds in them now. It looks like.
Yeah, we do. We do. They're perfect for this.
Oh yeah,
the seeds are. But yeah, I know Grove's working on some stuff I'm not supposed to talk about. But yeah,
all right, nice.
Regarding seeds,
nice.
Yeah, they're working on. They have some top secret projects.
Yep.
Like they always do. You know, they do a bunch of R&D. Like that company is all about R&D. I
think I was on that same signal thread with that top secret Grove bag information.
Right. They stay ahead of the curve, and I like that. You know, and it's like being innovative is something you have to do these days. Whether it's events or whether it's genetics or whether it's making bags, you can't just do what everybody else does and expect to be successful.
Right. And the way that the world's evolved, it's like trying to invent something at this point in the world is like different.
Maybe
Like,
not invent it, but improve it.
but taking things that exist and putting them together to create.
Yeah.
That's the age we're in, I think, now.
Well, and this is the age of collaboration too.
Yeah.
So like everyone's collaborating. The good people collaborate with the good people. Maybe the bad people collaborate with the bad people. I don't know. But definitely like-minded people collaborating together to basically push their projects forward and working with other people. There's so many benefits to like that collaboration model. If you can work with people that don't do exactly what you do, it basically helps you do your job better because they can be the experts at whatever they do.
Yeah.
And it's like with genetics, we're wholeheartedly a genetics company. Everything we do, whether it's the podcast or this review show, or whether it's the breeding book or whatever it is, it all circles back to genetics. And I love that.
I agree. I think that's what draws us together. That's what brought us together is this love for genetics and the desire to, push those boundaries. And collaborating with
Cannifest.
Collaboration.
Yeah, we did some podcasts. We filmed a mini doc out at Cannifest.
Yeah.
With our producer, Ryan. We had a great time.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys were all over there.
We're looking forward to this year too. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, and then with string cheese out there, it's like icing on the cake.
That's it. Let's do it. We got a bunch more music to announce coming soon and lots of other details.
Live podcasts, live. Yeah, I did that. We did a lecture with Johnny and Jason, and we had problems with the microphones. But we'll probably revisit and do that one again. I think we have some more stuff to talk about collaboration wise. I'm working with Johnny. I'm bringing my ZDP. We're bringing that up to Johnny. So
okay, right on.
That. So he's the one who he has the white thorn, and it inspired this when I was pheno hunting. I was like, reminded me of white thorn, and then my friend that passed. And so I'm like, okay, well, I can't give it to Dave. He's gone, but Johnny, I can work with him.
Cool.
Right? And
so
right
on.
I love his message. I love what he does for the plant. I feel like he's just a solid guy.
100%.
And so
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
In fact, he's got his genetics out in the Head Stash Bowl in New York right now. He's got some people out there he's working with.
Awesome.
And they entered the competition out there.
Really cool.
People were like, wait, what's this, California? What are you guys trying to bring your weed over here to New York? Like, no, the genetics are everywhere.
California's genetics are everywhere. Most of the shit in New York is California genetics originally. Same thing with Europe. It's like they started as California genetics. They're growing out and they're growing California genetics in Australia, Thailand, Germany, South America, the Caribbean, and especially in the Caribbean. I'm working down there, and it's like
right on.
We have California genetics that perform really well in California, where we bring them out to other places. And people want California. They hear California, and that's like, okay, that's a desirable thing. There's stuff that's not Californian, and they're like calling it California.
For sure. It used to be called Humboldt.
It used to be called Humboldt, and
It
California.
used to be called Humboldt.
They've encompassed
now it's
the whole
called
state.
California.
But people still know Humboldt, especially the OGs. But people still, when they hear Humboldt, it's like that's something special.
For sure. No, I just wanted to sprinkle that in there because it's something that's happening. You know, it's like we do want the world to know California weed, and we want to be able to take it all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
When our government gets their head out of their asses with all the bullshit, whatever, maybe we can start bringing it across the country. And
I would like that.
We take things all over the world from the places that do it best.
I want to buy
to everywhere
banana
else.
strains. I want to buy banana crosses, the flower from St. Vincent in the United States. I want to be able to have them import into the United States where we can consume it, as long as it passes like the safety standards.
100%.
And I think same thing with, I would love people to be able to try stuff that my cultivation partners in California grow in other states. States that don't have as much cultivation. I don't think it should be a state by state thing, although it's probably going to end up like that in the beginning. It is like that now.
It is right
but
now.
I think even with interstate commerce, it's like they're trying to resist the whole interstate commerce thing. And I really think we need to have interstate commerce. We need to have federal export. I think being able to export federally, not just as hemp, and that's what we're doing it now. It's like because the germplasm is hemp. It's all the same plant, right?
Right.
But I feel like we should be able to get phytosanitary on our genetics for whatever and be able to export them to countries that want to buy them. It's just wild that it's not like that.
It is. It's still being suppressed.
Yeah.
But we got to keep it overgrowing.
We got to keep overgrown. We got to keep the fight going. I think the argument, I know I'm right. I know we're right. You know what I mean? And I think even people in the government know we're right.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of time now. And it's going to be that struggle going back and forth. but we're most of the way there. You know,
I
that's
feel
the beauty of it.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe there's a long ways to go in some people's minds, but man, from 1996 when we got medical, I knew someday in my lifetime marijuana would be legal, cannabis would be legal.
Yeah.
Right. And I knew in my lifetime, and we're here now. And it's not the picture that I had envisioned necessarily, right?
Same.
It's different.
Yeah.
But it's here, and it's a good thing, right? And I think it's a great thing on many levels. I mean, there's some people that hate on it. A lot of people in Humboldt hate on it, you know, and it's a different economy up there, you know, unfortunately. And I feel like, you know, they got hit the hardest. Humboldt got hit the hardest with legalization in California.
For sure. We were a farming community. People don't quite get the how much farming was happening, how much growing and farming was happening.
And how much it supported the ecosystem within the community, within the schools, within the, you know, all the publicly funded things that growers contributed money towards, where they invested money and they invested cash into the small businesses that thrived.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
and built community facilities like the Mateel Community Center, for example, and things like that our community have that would not exist if people that were growing weed didn't come together and say, we need something, let's do something about it, and put money together and make things happen. Enough people did that back in the day. There was enough integrity. There was enough people looking out for each other and tribal living.
The people in Humboldt are the reason it's legal now, right? We wouldn't have it this way if there weren't people breaking the law. They changed the law for the wrong reason. It never should have been illegal in the first place.
Correct.
You know, but it took people breaking the law and getting in trouble, going to prison, dying for it to be legal. And, you know, we're here because of those people now. And I think a lot of people are like, no, we voted and we changed. And it's like, yes, but we only got to that point where we could vote because people broke the law to get us to that point.
That's it. You have to switch the social parameters before things even become socially acceptable.
Right.
Before they even show up on any kind of ballots or anything.
Yeah. And I mean, there's the whole outlaw mindset or whatever, but doing what's right and knowing in your heart that it's right, it's a lot different than going and breaking the law and doing something that harms other people.
Well, we transitioned, you know, like it's not as cool for Snoop to rap about weed as it used to be because he ain't breaking the laws no more, Snoop.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a big part of it. So, and that energy behind the outlaw that overgrew and overcame is still there, but it's just displaced now because we're not overcoming that now.
Right.
Like we already overcame it. When you go over the mountain, it feels different walking down the other side.
Right.
You know, you're going downhill, the sun's setting, whatever it is.
You forget what the other side of the hill looks like.
And it's like, you know, I voted for legal herb, and I believe that people shouldn't be in jail for weed. And I do also, as a business person and just the first kid on the block selling lemonade and buying a lawnmower to cut the neighbor's lawn, I understand risk to reward.
Yeah.
And the value of gambling and all this, you know, and that there's not as much of a risk, there's not as much of a reward. Yeah. That's the country we live in.
For sure. Yeah. Times are different.
It's just the way it is. You can hate on shit or you can like adopt.
Yesterday's price isn't today's price. It's gone the other way. You know, heavily.
$4,000 pounds are a thing of the past.
Well, I mean, outdoor pounds when I was younger, when I was a kid, outdoor pounds were more expensive sometimes than indoor pounds. Right. Like, literally, that's how it was in the 90s. Like there was outdoor pounds that were more expensive than the stuff that was indoors and vice versa. And the opinion on quality was a lot different back then.
It was.
You know, and we didn't have Instagram to judge the weed or to say like this is what weed should look like.
Right.
You know, it was a lot of times it was by the smell and the effect, right? And obviously smell, the look and the effect. I mean, people still eat with their eyes. You know, they were eating with their eyes back then too. Yeah. But it was a different world, and you know, it's like it's amazing because some of that outdoor stuff was $4,000 a pound.
Right.
Right. And
I mean, I live in a world where I believe that the biggest problem that we're not focused on as an industry, as a community, is the price matrix for weed based on quality, whether it's whatever market, whatever store, whatever bulk, whatever. We're not giving herb a value based on the quality.
Right.
The starting point for herb is the prices that these cats are setting in LA with the big warehouse.
Yeah.
If they set their price at $1,000 a pound, they're going to pay a lot more for that greenhouse weed from Humboldt to go back down to LA and sell it as their indoor.
Yeah.
Well, what happens if they set their indoor price about $650? That's what you're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm.
That guy in LA with the warehouse is setting the entire price for the whole industry by charging low prices for shitty grown warehouse weed that doesn't stand a chance to that outdoor or that really well-grown greenhouse weed. It's just the whole industry is being controlled by this,
right?
And it's not right.
Those are the kind of things
fact.
that take people out of business, right? Those we're seeing friends go out of business, and it's unfortunate. And especially in the cultivation space, if you can't grow quality, you're not going to survive anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like one of those lessons. Like, it's knocking the price down, but if you don't grow good quality, you're not going to survive no matter what.
Well, 4 years in a row now, the price has gone down for weed. When people thought 4 years ago that was it, it's not going to go down again.
Well, it's going to go down until people are gone, right?
Well,
so that's it. We're producing more in this state on both the traditional side and on the legal side than can be consumed, right? So until that gets straightened out, because we have places like Oklahoma where the traditional guys were going out of state with it, right? Those out of state places now are producing their own flower.
Well, what happens when we bring into this a grading rubrics, and weed that's better gets sold for more? It doesn't matter how it was grown. The quality's better. Mm-hmm. In fact, if it was grown outdoors, it should be maybe sold a little bit higher. You didn't pollute the environment as much to get your lights going, for example. Anyone could agree to that. That's just common sense. Like,
sure.
If can we just look at weed for the quality? Can we just start there?
Well, but it's so subjective, because quality in general, with everything in life, is subjective to the individual.
Definitely.
And we have these markers now for quality, right? So like, it has to look a certain way. And if it's this off color that comes with most of the outdoor flower, that is not worth as much as the stuff that looks nicer. Well, that's what the buyers are saying, that have warehouses that are selling the weed for $700 a pound. Yeah, but I think on the street too, people are like, we're not in as educated of market as we could be in, right?
You mean you don't want farm cut weed with all the leaves on it?
I mean, I used to put my stuff in mason jars with the leaves on, and I would finger trim them off before I smoked them, right? And I think Leo from Aficionado, the first time I met him, I gave him a jar of sour diesel that had like leaves on it, and it was like my personal stash, and gave him some of that. And so
people
I
get
like
it in
that
Humboldt.
stuff.
People know that,
right? But people across the state and across the country don't know that, and they don't appreciate it the same way we do.
Right? They're just uneducated. All I'm trying to say is, sure, like you're right. When the weed looks like it's yellowed out because it was grown outdoors, some people, the majority of people, and the majority of the purchasers and the majority of the industry thinks it's a lower grade of weed.
Right. When actually it's not necessarily. I would prefer a lot of the stuff over a lot of the stuff that's grown indoors.
For sure.
And I think it's so subjective to personal preference, but also quality, by it's like, I'll take Rockwool any day over some shitty grown soil weed.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh no, Rockwool, it's this or it's that. No, it's like, no, dude, like it's Rockwool in the right environment with the right grower. Like it's like a fucking race car with Mario Andretti or whatever, one of these guys, these famous race car drivers behind the wheel, and they can create an amazing product. You can do 100%. Small batch Rockwool that comes out amazing.
Oh, definitely.
Right? And same thing with cocoa, and same thing with soil. And it has so much more, people want to start hating on things, and it's like, dude, it's like so much about the cultivator and the person that passion that they're putting into it. Right.
Well, it's this whole part of like in the weed world, there's any world and any business place, you have people from different sides throwing stones at each other.
Oh yeah.
It's always going to be that way. But all I'm trying to say is like quality of weed is something that can be agreed upon within reasonable measures. Like whenever we do these competitions, I've done 15 of them.
Yeah.
No matter who the judges are, it's overwhelmingly, they always end up picking, they all choose the same grouping of winners.
Yeah.
It's like in California last year, we had 99 judges.
Wow.
Literally, it was nuts.
Yeah.
But it proved to all of our team and anybody paying attention, again, another thing that I saw was that no matter who people are, they're assessing weed the same way.
Mm-hmm.
How does it smell? What does it look like? How did I get high from it? And the more you try to put them into these models of use these tools to assess weed,
right,
the less of the true assessment comes through. People have their own personal relationship with the plant,
right.
However you want to assess it,
Sure.
should be, why are you better at assessing something that is going to be something you like or not? Right. So it's totally subjective.
Right.
But you always see
trends with
trends.
Stuff. Well, but it's just like when Tangy was winning the cups in 2014, it was a trend, right? And that Tangy, one of the most winning genetics of all time. It was the judges were looking for Tangy in there, and it's so obvious what's Tangy and what's not Tangy. It was just winning, and it was the hype thing back then. It was the gelato of its day in every way, shape, and form. And when it was in the cups, all the judges would be like, "That's the best shit. It's the Tangy." And so we do go through these trends, and they are subjective, but it's also environmental too. Like we can have these trends that are put on us by our friends, by social media. We start thinking, well, this is a quality indicator that has to be purple, which is the one that drives me the craziest in some ways, because I love green weed. I love really good green weed.
Bright green.
I love that bright, like almost fluorescent green weed. It's like that makes me smile just even thinking about it.
Same.
And I love purple weed, and I love fluorescent purple weed, and I love black flower, and I love all these different colors and these different shades. It's like we've even had stuff that's almost reddish.
Red
SFV
weed.
Comes out a little bit red at the end sometimes. And it's like, I love that too. Yeah, red bud. And where the stuff that has the dragon's blood, where you got the anthocyanins, when you open it up and it's like the blood that comes out of the stems, it's like that stuff's really cool.
It is.
But those are all just, personal preference. And I think those will be trends, and they'll go away and they'll change, and people won't be excited about purple weed as much in 5 years. They're less excited about it now than they were 3 years ago.
For sure. No, green weed's on the come up for sure. When I go into dispensaries or see what people are growing this year, looking at what the selections some people are making with their green weed is on the rise. That bright green weed, people, there's certain flavors that come along with that.
I want iced out, like super sticky weed. That's what I like.
Yeah.
I want it to be neon green underneath, but I want it to be iced out on the top.
Yeah. I'd love to see some more Trainwreck make its way back through the works. I think it could have a run. Trainwreck could have a run right now, because sativa and that Jack zone.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people are so mixed up.
Has like that White Widow spice to it or something.
It's totally like a lot of people mix up Jack and Trainwreck, and they're two totally different things.
Totally different.
And like just even the way the plants grow, that Trainwreck is like, it's got these golf ball buds that grow on it, and where Jack kind of stacks, it stacks completely differently than Trainwreck. It does have a similar profile, but it's just like saying a haze.
But the Jack will keep trying to, the top of the bud will keep trying to get wider, like a sativa.
Chunks out,
and then that Trainwreck shoots up,
and Trainwreck
tall,
was
but then
strong. It was called Trainwreck for a reason.
See these things hanging all the time. I remember the first time seeing the Trainwreck, and then understanding, okay, Trainwreck, because it gets really big and then crashes over.
Yeah, and super strong.
I'd love to see that stuff come back.
And I think that'll make its way around again. It has to. And maybe this is the thing I'm seeing more now than ever, is also I'm seeing things I saw 30 years ago or 20 years ago make their way into another genetic. And it's like what people love about it, but they don't know that it was from this.
Right.
They don't know if cat piss will make its comeback. We'll get ammonia again, where it's like going to make it come back. I feel like that's going to be the closest thing I'll ever get to cat piss again, the real cat piss. And I had people send me cat piss seeds. I'm working with some cat piss stuff and I'm talking to John from Green Bodie. We're trying to remake our own version of cat piss, right?
Yeah.
But I think that it's not going to be the original cut coming back. It's going to be our own new version of it that's expressing itself in some other form, because these expressions will reoccur down the line. I mean, these are traits that will pop up. They will reoccur through different lines over time. Just how Jack pops up randomly and stuff. It's like, I mean, like literally you'll have some Jack terps where you're like, or that terpinolene, limonene from the haze, and that'll just pop up randomly in Skittles even and stuff like that with Skittles cross. It's like, where did that come from? So
that's fun.
Totally. So if you had one thing to tell your younger self, you go back in time, what would that one thing be?
Just move towards the light.
Nice.
I feel like I'm really grateful for my path. Where I'm at right now.
Same.
And just like with what I have and what I've done and the people that are around me and my family and my, the network and just the place where I'm at, it's like, I truly feel like I'm in the right spot every day.
Yeah.
I still feel like I'm on vacation since I moved to California 28 years ago. I still feel like I'm on vacation. Move west, young man.
So one of my uncles, he said, life is the vacation.
Life is the vacation.
That's aspire to be that.
Yeah.
Life is the vacation.
That's money. I
love that saying.
That's a good one. But I truly feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Life is the vacation.
Yeah.
There you go. I just graduated today.
Yeah. I got that tattoo on my leg.
All right. Right on. That's awesome.
Right on. So if people are looking to find more about Cannifest or they want to know more about Steve, how can they find you?
So our website's an easy spot, CANNIFEST, like manifest cannabis. That's what Cannifest is. We're manifesting our future with this plant.
Right.
You can find me there on our Instagram stuff. I got Into the Cannabis is a thing I started during a podcast that I called it during COVID.
Right.
Because I was just like missing people. So I wanted to connect. So Into the Cannabis is something I started. I'll be getting back on that in the near future, but that's my Instagram page that I have for all the things I kind of pop up doing different events and just whatever's going on. You can find me there. And we have a dispensary up in McKinleyville, the Gangery.
Nice. And
we're opening our second one in Arcata. And Gangery Distro is our distribution company up there. And we have like 9 in-house brands.
Wow.
Fresh Strain is our premium flower brand. Godex is the greatest of all terps, straight out of Humboldt. And then we got 2 Fresh J's. We got Philly Blunts, that Humboldt Green, and a few other assortments. Zippers, our ounce products. We've got a bunch of things we package and make and brand and market right there in our warehouse in Humboldt. We source from all of our local makers and NorCal growers and makers. And we're just trying to keep top shelf weed on the top shelf.
Right.
Because it hasn't been done right. When I look around the industry, like the top shelf is void. It's confusing in the weed world,
So if you're looking to get good Humboldt outdoor flower, where is the best place to go?
Gangery Distro. Check our website out. We have a link to all the stores we sell to there, and it tells you more about all our brands and stuff.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to Cannifest this year, dude.
Damn, I look forward to hanging out there with you and making things happen.
Dude, let's do it. I'm down. Right. I'm super down. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, James.
Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe down below.